meaningful responsibilities of our board service. Over the years, I've had the privilege of sharing in these milestones with countless graduates and their families. These moments bring into sharp focus the purpose of our work. They are the clearest expression of the outcomes we strive to achieve. This year was especially significant for the University of Maryland Global Campus, as its Asia Division marked its 70th anniversary. A total of 714 active duty service members, veterans, and their dependents graduated from UMGC Asia, an extraordinary testament to the perseverance, discipline, and commitment. Chancellor Perman and myself were honored to participate in the ceremony in Tokyo, where we brought greetings to 164 graduates and their families. While there, we also had an opportunity to meet with students, faculty, and staff, which rendered a deeper appreciation for the dedication and our mission across continents and time zones. It is a profound source of pride to support an institution that serves the military community through higher education. In times like these, when service and sacrifice carry additional weight, the opportunity to help expand access to education for those who serve our country is both a responsibility and an honor. Thank you, President Fowler, for this special invitation. And you'll note he's not here. He's doing commencement tomorrow up in Okinawa. UMGC's Asia commencement was the first in the line of commencements across the system. Over the next several weeks, 12 regents are participating in 22 commencement ceremonies, celebrating the achievement of Marylanders, both native and hopefully new transplants across every corner of the state. To our graduates, congratulations on this achievement, an important personal milestone. Your hard work is building a better future for you and your families. It's also helping build a stronger Maryland as your success advances our communities, our workforce, and continues to position Maryland as a model for a skilled, highly educated, and dedicated workforce. As I close, I want to note the conclusion of the 2026 legislative session. Each year we reflect on how active the session has been, and this year certainly did not disappoint. We entered the session with a clear understanding of the challenges facing our elected officials. As expected, there was a heightened sense of urgency and intensity driven by budget pressures, federal actions, and an evolving policy landscape. This end of session summary you will hear from Chancellor Perman could have been very different. Instead, we concluded with a slight increase in funding and a continued support for critical programs and initiatives, an encouraging outcome in a very difficult budget year. This session reaffirms something we know well. Support for higher education is a defining strength of Maryland. On behalf of the board, I want to extend our sincere appreciation to the Governor, Senate President, Speaker of the House, committee leadership, and the dedicated teams of the Department of Legislative Services, the Department of Budget and Management, and the Governor's Office. I would also like to thank the presidents and their government relations teams, and the Chancellor along with the system staff for their tireless advocacy on behalf of our universities. I had the opportunity to see many of you in the halls of Annapolis and in committee hearings, where you're always prepared and persistent to make our voices heard. Finally, and certainly not least, I want to recognize Vice Chancellor Lawrence and Assistant Vice Chancellor Clark for their leadership and coordination and unwavering commitment throughout the session. Their efforts ensured that our voice was heard and our priorities were clearly communicated. Now, moving on to the agenda, following public comment, our host, President Darrell Pines, will give welcome remarks and share some excitement happening at the University of Maryland College Park. We will then move to the educational forum. Today's education forum will be presented by Dave Mosca, Vice Chancellor for Accountability. He will present an internal audit and risk management. Chancellor Perman will deliver the report to the board, and followed by that will be the reports from the councils. Ms. Wilkerson, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Each board meeting, we include a public comment of 15 minutes. Individuals need to submit their requests in advance. We have 5 public speakers today. Their comments need to be geared toward the item on the agenda that they've indicated. I will call the speakers to the stanchion or the microphone that's in the middle of the floor in just a moment. I need to ask the folks in the aisle to sit down because the public speakers are going to go through the aisle area to talk, and you guys are obstructing them. Okay. So first we will begin. Excuse me, I'm sorry. First, we will begin with Todd Holden of AFSCME Local 1072, and he is going to speak on the collective bargaining update.
Good morning. I'm Todd Holden. I work at the University of Maryland College Park. I'm a shop steward with AFSCME Local 1072, and I'm currently its president. The legislative session concluded. AFSCME is proud of the work we did in tandem with the USM to advocate for resources to ensure the system is more supported than in recent years. We showed up and testified, and our staff worked with Susan Lawrence to make sure the system did not receive cuts. That said, AFSCME is here today to remind the USM that we have a contract, and that contract needs to be honored in all of its terms and conditions. We sincerely hope that for all the work we have done together, that the system does not undermine our recent progress. The USM agreed to follow the terms and conditions of our contract, both non-economic and economic. In spite of our collaboration in the legislative session, we remain disappointed and frankly angry at the continued opposition to workers' rights by the USM. We were proud to stand in solidarity with our comrades in the faculty and the graduate students who finally won a measure of collective bargaining, but we all know that the USM fought it publicly and privately. It's also notable that the USM solely opposed binding arbitration and led the effort to cut higher ed out of the final bill. If we are considered a core constituency or an ally, how can you justify expending so many resources to fight us year after year? This is wrong. This fall, we will start to bargain our first consolidated successor agreement. We reiterate that we want to work collaboratively with you and come to a swift resolution. However, if the USM repeats its same antics and tactics from the past, AFSCME will take this fight to the public square. We hope that we can count on this board to instruct your bargainers to do the right thing. Ultimately, you are accountable for the actions of your team. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Khadija Abdallah, and she is going to speak on advancement-related Board of Regents policies and review of USM Board of Regents Policy Work Group.
Good morning. My name is Khadija, and I'm speaking on behalf of the USM Divestment Coalition for Palestine with suggestions relating to agenda items, advancement-related policies, the review of USM Policy Workgroup progress, degree proposals, and the 27 mentions of so-called defense. I come to you today in the wake of a continuously violated false ceasefire agreement in Gaza and the violent U.S. Zionist incursions into Lebanon and Iran. Despite following every available procedure, constantly requesting to meet, and the growing unified student call for divestment, there has been absolutely no meaningful effort on the side of the Regents to hear our concerns and make any effort towards change. Instead, you have chosen to continue strengthening the system's material, cultural, and ideological support for the illegitimate apartheid state while brutally repressing our movement. You have failed to protect Palestinian students, and we see through the so-called policy working groups that have never bothered consulting us for what they are, an infinite series of hoops to stall a commitment you never would make. Today, we hold every single member on trial for their maintained complicity in the accelerated genocide in Gaza and the war crimes committed against people around the world, from Palestine to Sudan to the Philippines. Today, we platform the stories of countless USM students whose testimonies cannot be limited to 3 minutes every few months. We know your names, we hear your silence, and we identify your ties to the very corporations, lobbying agencies, and federal institutions that are providing material cover for the U.S. Zionist project. We recognize our universities for what they really are: real estate agencies, military recruitment sites, and portfolio opportunities for the ruling class. This is my 6th time addressing the board since October 2023, and probably my last. But we remain unbreakable. The student movement, faculty and staff movement, labor movement, community movement for divestment is only growing and refusing to allow you to peacefully invest in death and destruction. It is completely within the scope of this board and the responsibility of every single member of this board to divest the Common Trust Fund from the CIPRI 100 and add this commitment to the USM ESG factors. Today and every day until this commitment is made, we, the students, staff, faculty, alumni, and community members of the USM, declare you all guilty. We will continue to mobilize until victory, until divestment, until the dissolution of the board, and the liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Shub Angaroti. Shub? And he is also speaking on the advancement-related board policies and the review of the policy work group.
Hello. My name is Shub Agnihotri, and I'm an electrical engineering student at the University of Maryland, College Park. I also serve on the Student Government Association as the co-director of Transportation and Infrastructure. I am here to urge the Board of Regents of the University System of Maryland and the Committee on Advancements to reconsider the policy of the Board of Regents on ethical practices and charitable giving. The agenda states that the policy was reviewed in the February meeting, but we have yet to see any movement to reflect the implementation of any ethical practices. The University System of Maryland Foundation and system institutions refuse to sever their ties to racist, murderous defense contractors. To block these kinds of companies from influencing our institutions, our policies must be amended. As an engineering student, I am disgusted walking into my department buildings. They constantly glorify donors who themselves do not reflect the values of our institutions. The donor walls feature companies like Boeing and Northrop Grumman and others who are directly complicit in Israel's genocide in Gaza that has to date murdered over 70,000 Palestinians. The Kim Engineering Building and the Computer Science Instructional Building have multiple rooms named after Leidos, BAE Systems, and Lockheed Martin, companies that manufacture fighter jets, launch white phosphorus, and assist in double-tap bombings of hospitals, schools, and entire villages. Why is the University of Maryland College Park and the broader USM okay with accepting donations that are soaked in the blood of countless innocent lives around the globe? Instituting stricter policies around the solicitation and receipt of gifts from private entities can help our universities promote ethical careers and research for our students and staff. USM institutions currently aim to obfuscate clear moral boundaries in their communities' minds so they won't question where they apply their expertise. It is a disservice to the students and staff at USM schools to encourage them to aid and abet in genocide, and it is an insult to those living in war-torn countries that must suffer the consequences of our decisions day after day. Do right by GLUE and AFSCME. Let's cancel ARLIS, ACES, DoD contracts, ARTL, AMS, and contracts with Israel, and any other blood money operation in the University System of Maryland.
Our next speaker is Grayson Martin, who is also speaking on the advancement-related board policies and the policy work group. Grayson?
My name is Grayson, and I'm a student at UMBC. As a member of BINHI, an organization in solidarity with the Filipino people, I want to discuss Agenda Item 4B1. The human rights crisis in the Philippines, in which civilians are indiscriminately targeted by the armed forces of the Philippines, is armed and made possible by the same weapons manufacturers that the USM holds investments in. These conditions are what led my friend and UMBC alum Chantal Enicoche to conduct relief work in Mindoro. While she was there, helicopters made by Lockheed Martin were used by the armed forces of the Philippines to carry out a massacre against the indigenous Mangyang community she was living amongst. The indiscriminate bombings and aerial strafings killed 2 student researchers and 3 Mangyang children, injured their mother, and displaced hundreds of Mangyang people from their ancestral land. This massacre committed by the Philippine state is yet another violation of international humanitarian law. It also led to Chantal's disappearance and month-long detainment by the armed forces of the Philippines, who are notorious for their abuse against detained activists. Unfortunately, the case of Chantal and the people of Mindoro is not unique. This is part of an ongoing and escalating trend of human rights abuses in the Philippines, being backed by the U.S. war industry and, by extension, the USM. The students within the USM have long bore witness to and organized against the atrocities our very own educational institutions help support through their investments. Now we are seeing that the USM is not only complicit in civilian massacres thousands of miles away, but complicit in the bombing of our very own classmate and friend. As the human rights crisis in the Philippines intensifies, I urge you, in your next phase of the working group, to review your ESG policies and include a commitment to divest in entirety from the weapons industry.
Right, and our final speaker is Mdaya Permoy. And Mdaya is also going to speak on the advancement policies and the policy work group.
Hello, my name is MJ Permui, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Young Democratic Socialists of America chapter at the University of Maryland, College Park, specifically in regards to Agenda Item 4B1 and our unequivocal support for justice in Palestine in the Divest USM campaign. In regards to Agenda Item 4B1, I urge the working group to revise all policies to include ethical commitments and divestment from weapons. On the University System of Maryland's website, it is stated that USM will partner with business, governmental, nonprofits, and organizations to improve quality of life. Does this include funding Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and RTX, companies supplying the arms that decimate Palestinian hospitals, schools, and homes? More than 750 Palestinians have been killed since a so-called ceasefire came into effect, and that number is climbing. Israel forces have continued to terrorize, murder, rape, and kidnap the Palestinian people. When will the violence be enough? We all share the burden of the protection of humanity, but investment into these companies destroys humanity. We also see this terror escalate in our own communities. Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman also work directly with ICE, the organization tearing children from their families and sending immigrants to unsafe, inhumane conditions. There is an undeniable link between the funding of genocide abroad in Gaza and the kidnapping and killing of our neighbors here at home. And the University System of Maryland and its Board of Regents funds both. Today, I address the Board of Regents directly. Divest. Divest from contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and RTX. On your own website, you say you commit to improving the quality of life of students, Maryland, and its citizens. We are simply asking you to mean it. The Divest USM campaign will not stop until the USM stops funding genocide and state terror. Divest now.
Disclose. Divest. We will not stop. We will not rest. Disclose. Divest. We will not stop, we will not rest.
Madam Chair, this concludes public comment.
We will now hear from President Darrell Pines. President Pines, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Chancellor Perman. Good morning, Chair Gooden, Vice Chair Ganella, members of the Board of Regents, my fellow presidents, vice chancellors, and also distinguished guests. It is truly an honor and privilege to host you here at the hotel at the University of Maryland and have the opportunity to showcase some of the great work that has been making our institution such a dynamic and powerful force for public good. Last night, you heard about a novel space called the Idea Factory and the concept of X Foundry, where teams of students crowdsource to work on society's most pressing problems to positively impact the world. The story what happened to my charts? Can we advance my charts, please? Well, I'll continue. The story I'm going to share with you today starts in 2020, even before I was inaugurated as president, and when the world shut down because of COVID-19. I hope you all remember that vividly, like I do. Remember how uncertain things were? Everything in the world was uncertain at the time. We faced disruption, like the one we just saw, on every front. The pandemic, anguish and anger about social injustice in the summer of 2020 because of George Floyd and inequality, shifts in the routine of everyday life, from work and school to politics and the elections uncertainty. Everything in the world in 2020 felt like it was changing, but we didn't know what shape or form any of it would take in the long run. And I say that because it provides a backdrop about what I'm going to talk about. Amidst crisis, higher education was also facing the harsh reality that the American public had lost its faith in higher education and its confidence in higher education. Too often, we were seen as isolated, aloof, that the value of a degree wasn't worth the cost of tuition. And something clearly wasn't working in our translation of our expertise from the laboratory and the bedside and the classroom to the outside world. We faced an unprecedented choice. We could either double down on how we were operating and hope that we come out of the storm able to return to normal, or we could retreat and start reducing programs and services to ensure our stability, but become a lesser institution in the process, or we could recognize this existential crossroads condition as an opportunity to imagine a different future and transform ourselves. We at the University of Maryland chose the latter. And we made the brave and bold decision, strongly and deliberately, and with our full voice, to transform our institution. Public land-grant research universities like ours are uniquely positioned to make a positive difference in the lives of our fellow human beings and all Marylanders, both right outside the doors of this campus and around the state and around the globe. Universities have a combination of values, assets, and problem-solving approaches that simply don't exist anywhere else in the world. That's why it was the time to reinvent ourselves, to reinvent the University of Maryland, and envision our campus and community as a modern flagship university that turns excellence into impact for the public good, and to truly create a do-good campus. Our goal is to promote excellence in everything we do, teaching and learning, research, innovation, the arts, and athletics, while creating a welcoming, inclusive campus environment where everyone has an opportunity to succeed and to thrive. Ultimately, that is how we become not just a top university, but a true progress machine for society, with an engine fueled by public impact on a campus devoted to doing good. All of this resonated with me because I'm an engineer, a researcher, a professor, a dean, and now president. I have long been inspired by the original post-World War II research enterprise vision of Dr. Vannevar Bush, a scientist, inventor, and science administrator who headed the U.S. Office of Scientific Research and Development. He saw the opportunity for our country to lead into endless frontiers by creating a blueprint for partnership between U.S. government and our nation's universities to conduct basic research. This vision fueled the U.S. R&D research enterprise for decades. This was a groundbreaking statement at the time of our national aspirations to keep breaking barriers and push the boundaries of scientific discovery, something that I have tried to do throughout my own career, and something I wanted to inspire our entire university community to do as president. I've also found it helpful to understand that the different ways that research can be used through these quadrants. You may have heard of them, something called Pasteur's quadrants, first defined and outlined by a political scientist named Donald Stokes. They range from basic tinkering that isn't truly aimed at fundamental understanding or practical use, to pure basic research that seeks to understand fundamental principles without regard for application, such as Niels Bohr's atomic structure research, or pure applied research that seeks practical application without the need to understand underlying principles, such as Thomas Edison's many famous inventions. For us, the important section in this figure is Pasteur's quadrant, named after Louis Pasteur's work on microbiology to solve vaccination and fermentation issues of the time. This is the true sweet spot for research universities, where studies seek fundamental understanding while also being driven by the desire to solve practical, real-world problems. This is the area where we also find public impact research initiatives, led by universities, but done in partnership with community organizations, corporate organizations, and government, explicitly designed to produce the actionable solutions we need to address society's grandest challenges. Out of that, COVID movement and our embrace of a vision inspired by the National Research Enterprise mission and obligations as a land-grant public research institution to use our expertise, innovation, and collaboration to make the world a better place for all humankind came our strategic plan, Fearlessly Forward, led by our incomparable and incredible Provost Jennifer King Rice and her entire team and the team of deans and all the cabinet members and all the faculty, staff, and students, over 1,000 participants in the creation of this plan. Built on the input and insights and passion of our community, one direction for one institution. It defined our institutional commitment to reimagining learning, taking on humanity's grand challenges, investing in people and communities, and partnering to advance the public good in order to ensure that impact of our collective efforts is far greater than what any of us could do alone. Nothing better exemplifies what has been possible with this vision, with the absolute alignment of our entire institution, including our priorities, people, research, instruction, community engagement, than the University of Maryland's Grand Challenge Grants Program. The Grand Challenge Grants Program, launched in 2023, was designed to be the largest and most comprehensive effort in the history of our institution to support projects addressing emerging societal issues, all of which was crowdsourced from our own community. Provost Rice and I never came up with any of these ideas. They all came from the community. A partnership between the Office of Academic Affairs and the Division of Research, it was designed to accelerate solutions to the grandest challenges within our communities and around the globe through education, research, scholarship, creative activities, and service. Launched in February of 2023, the Grand Challenge Program has encompassed 50 projects across our campus with an initial $30 million investment. In just 3 years, they have had an exponential impact, creating 450 partnerships, securing an additional $55 million in external funding, almost 2 times our initial investment, involving over 6,500 students and reaching every county of our wonderful state. This program enabled us to vastly increase the scale of our impact beyond our campus and even our state borders. Projects supported by the Grand Challenges program have achieved national and international footprint and reach, either through operations in a specific geographical area or by taking on a problem affecting an entire region. These projects protect communities at home in Maryland and abroad from the risks of climate change and seek to make our resources more resilient and sustainable. They are also improving literacy across all 24 Maryland school districts. They are shaping public policy, furthering accessibility to technology and increasing civic engagement. From pandemic preparedness and food insecurity to addressing wildfires, fighting misinformation, and increasing social justice, each has a vision and a focus on the issues that impact, once again, the lives of real people every day. Whether you realize it or not, the work has been ongoing right outside our doors. One of the projects we are most proud of and most excited about is called the Maryland Initiative for Literacy and Equity, or MILE, a partnership between 4 of our colleges at the University of Maryland, along with a partnership with Morgan State University and the Maryland State Department of Education. It is led by UMD Professor DJ Bolger and Morgan State Professor Simone Gibson, and focused on addressing a very real and very local crisis in our state. MILE's mission is to build full and equitable access to literacy in order to empower all Marylanders at an early stage. Many of you probably didn't know in this room that in this wonderfully highly educated state of Maryland, that 3rd and 4th graders, 15 to 20% do not read it at 3rd and 4th grade level. How is that possible in the state of Maryland? And that is the challenge that this team took on. Here's the data. If you read up there in 2013, you see that Maryland was surpassing most states in the national average in national reading scores. But just a decade later, no offense to anyone from Mississippi, but we are below the average, and Mississippi jumped above the average. How could that have happened in just a decade? But it did. So let's see what kind of work that MILE does. Oops, if you can go back and play that video, please, thank you.
¿Cuáles serían esas otras razones?
Put your finger under, okay? Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Today we have a visitor, right? Yes. Es 1, 2 y 3. Bienvenido. Welcome. The population of Cold Spring is 98% Hispanic. We have 2 programs here. We have a comprehensive program and we have dual language program.
So students come out by the end of elementary school sort of fluent in 2 languages?
Yes.
Excellent.
Research says that what they learn in English transfers to Spanish. What they learn in Spanish really strengthens their English literacy.
She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work.
Abrió su nunca antes usada colección de acuarelas y se puso a trabajar.
The professional learning opportunities have involved coaching, observing classrooms, focused literacy practices. So part of our research is in really looking at how teachers make sense of literacy practices and then how they can keep growing and improving them.
How about you?
I want to be a teacher.
A teacher! Yes! Give a round of applause.
Our bigger team really is thinking about how can we take the lessons learned in a local context to expand our professional development and access to professional development across the state.
Excellent.
Perfecto.
And so let's see how we're doing. What's the result of this work? Recent reading scores have shown a rebound. Last year, grade 4 reading scores in Maryland actually increased for the first time in nearly a decade. And grade 8 reading scores finally held steady for the first time over the same period. So we're making progress, one step at a time. But Mile is far from the only project. If you can play this video, please. Making a huge impact. Let's take a look at now the Climate Resilient Network.
Issue, and it impacts our state in so many ways.
All of our data goes straight into the National Weather Service, wind speed, temperature fluctuations, etc. That's getting into the hands of the people who can issue the warnings fastest.
It's about getting this information to the hands of emergency managers, communities, as opposed to someone having to drive around to see if something's flooding. They can actually go to our website and just pull up the data to see how high the water level is at any given time.
So we actually go out and try to make direct measurements of the emissions, provide that information to the people that have the responsibility and the authority to control those emissions.
So, all of this progress is the result of what began in 2020. This is the impact we can produce by marshaling our people, our talent, our priorities, and resources toward a singular goal of making our world better for everyone, and in the process creating a far stronger university than we have ever seen before. So what has been the result of transforming our university's culture into a flagship for the public good? We have now reached some of the highest rankings in the history of the university, the highest in U.S. News and World Report, the highest in the academic ranking of world universities. It's been an amazing, amazing journey over the last 6 years. From our graduation rates to our undergraduate entrepreneurship patents, Gilman scholarships, highly ranked researchers, we are proud to say that our university has been recognized in the top 10 for a whole host of rankings, putting Maryland on the map as an institution with great momentum. As an aside, one of the greatest opportunities and greatest privilege of a president is to recognize one of your students. Yesterday, I spent the time attending a class of one of our students named Michelle Wang. She's a double major in environmental science and social data science. She is the 2026 Harry S. Truman Scholar. How about a round of applause for that? Last year, I had the same opportunity to go to Regent Marani's class and recognize him as a 2025, I think, Harry S. Truman. Give him a round of applause for being one as well. And the reason why this is so special, because they get recognized for what we care about, is doing the public service for the public good. That's what Harry S. Truman Scholars do. And it embodies everything we mean about transforming our university and having our students be recognized in this way. Our students, even those with the greatest needs, are graduating at record rates. Our four-year graduation rate is now 79.2%. This is the highest it's ever been. It's gone up 9% in 7 years. And our six-year graduation rate, it puts us both categories in the top 10 of publics in the United States, and also number 13 among Pell-eligible schools. We've experienced a 40% growth in our research enterprise because of this radical change in culture, and we are now ranked with our colleagues from University of Maryland, Baltimore, number 9 as a public and number 14 overall. Again, the highest rankings that our two institutions shared together in the research enterprise have ever reached in our time period together. In February 2025, our Vice President for Marketing and Communications team conducted a statewide study with the Association of American Universities to benchmark perceptions of our university, including Marylanders in particular, A total of 72% of respondents said our state is better off because of the University of Maryland College Park. And while only 33% said that they and their own family are better off, I am confident that next time we do this survey, that number will go up. Because we have made it our priority to have an impact on real people, real communities, real problems, and all Marylanders. All of what I just said and talked about adds up to a flagship university, Maryland's flagship university, that is indispensable for the public good. And all of what I just talked about is not possible. It's not possible without everyone in this room. And I'd like to end with our Fearlessly Forward model, because it encapsulates all of our activities, our transformation, our strategic plan, our efforts to take on the grand challenges of our time, and the impact and excellence that it results. All of this is not possible, of course, without the leadership in this room, the partnership of the Board of Regents, and the collegial support of my colleagues, my fellow presidents, and the academic leaders at the University of Maryland, our faculty, our Senate, our staff, and our incredible students like Drew Vac. We are so proud of him and so proud of all of them. So I am optimistic we can all continue to make higher education a positive force for the public good. Thank you.
All I can say is, wow, what an impressive presentation. We are honored to be a part of the team that supports UMD. Your achievements are remarkable, and particularly in just the past 7 years. Daryl, thank you for that presentation and for getting us moving in a positive direction this morning. We'll now move to the Education Forum, Internal Audit and Risk Management, which will be presented by Vice Chancellor Dave Mosca. Vice Chancellor Mosca will provide a brief overview of audit and risk management, focusing on how risks are identified, how they are managed once identified, and how we stay alert to emerging issues across the system. The presentation will also outline the key roles of internal and external audit functions in supporting oversight and accountability. Vice Chancellor Mosca is, hi Dave. I will be remiss if I did not acknowledge that this meeting is your last board meeting. On behalf of myself and the board, thank you for your service and for this final act of service. As you well know, audit was my first committee on this board, and I've always been impressed by your integrity, by your honesty, and by your ability to do the work efficiently and effectively without seeming distress at all in very stressful situations. So thank you for all that you do and have done for the system, and we look forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we look forward to your presentation.
Wow. If I get emotional here, bail me out, please, Linda. I certainly wasn't expecting that. I was expecting a goodbye, but thank you so much, and thank you for the round of applause. I've been incredibly fortunate to be here the last 25 years and the last 21 reporting to the board and the audit committee. I've been able to work with an incredible team of leaders, thinkers, motivators, doers. I've learned so much from every role in this room, and I'm incredibly grateful. It's said that auditing is, the higher up the ladder you go, the more it's appreciated, and that's certainly a truism with this group here, right? And remember, we're not we're the internal auditors. So we receive the benefit of that. So thank you so much. I can't express my gratitude enough for how fortunate I've been to work here the last 25 plus years. Tough acts to follow. Thank you. I'll give it my best. Speaking of some things I've learned from the great leaders over the years is I get to make 2 points. That's been expressed to me. If you get 2 points that people can take with them, you've done a pretty good job. My 2 points are how we discuss risk after we've identified it, and how do we identify emerging risks? 2 questions that come up a lot. Risk management is my favorite subject. I'm an auditor by trade, I'm an accountant by education and certification, but my world revolves around risks. Our function audits to risk. That's what we do. Another point that a great leader of our audit committee chair, Linda, you know this, is to bring a little humor to the points you make. I always try to get a little humor in. I realize I'm not that funny, but I'll do my best. Today's discussion is aimed at governance, leadership level, but the principles I'm talking about you can take to every level of management and talk to them whether you're lower, middle, upper governance level. These principles apply to everyone. Hopefully, everybody will have something to take away next time you talk about risk. As far as what you can bring to the conversation. For others, hopefully it reinforces what you already do in your day-to-day roles. So we're talking about risk after you've identified it. I mean, the tough part is identifying the risk, right? Then what? You got to manage it. You got to mitigate it. What do you do? First question boards ask, Linda, I've heard you ask it. How are we managing the risk? Perfect question. Of course, that's the next obvious place to go. Where I see miscommunication or how it becomes difficult is oftentimes the owners of the risk don't necessarily know all the things they're doing that is managing the risk, and they have trouble answering that question. And sometimes the folks that ask that question aren't really certain what they should be hearing is good news or bad news. I hopefully will clear that up a little bit and give you something to think about. I used to keep these 5 questions on the back of my business card when I handed them out. These are fundamental questions. It's based on enterprise risk management infrastructure frameworks. So it's not just stuff that Dave made up. It follows a COSO module, which has changed over the years. There's more to risk management than just this. But I think if you can get these 5 questions into your rapport with the risk owners, I think it's going to carry you 90% of the way in your discussions about risk management and mitigation. The first seems pretty obvious. Who owns the risk? You want to make sure you're talking to the right people. Do you have the expert with you that's going to tell you all the things that are happening to mitigate risk? Objective setting, how do you measure that you're being successful in managing risk, monitoring results? Policies and internal controls, we delve into these a great deal in our internal audits making sure that these are adequate. So we can get better. Information and data, do we have good information? It's not so easy to get good data out of your systems. How are your queries and reports that you're receiving? How do you know the information's good? And what these questions do, not only do they help you as the asker, it helps the receiver, the risk owners. Okay, now I'm starting to think of what the board, the presidents want when they ask, how are we managing risk? This starts them thinking, okay, we're doing a lot of this. You know, we put this is the next step. Okay, how well are we managing these risks? And the owners are going to know. They just might not know how to answer it right off the bat. But all these things are, what you'll find out is most of these things are already happening, and they're functioning very well. But it also gets you discussing now, are the steps we're taking to manage risk, are they enough? Are they too much? And these discussions, folks take back with their departments. If we're talking risks, we're talking these things. And it helps them do a better job of putting together a strategy to mitigate risk. It puts their thinking caps on. Risk owners know all these things. All right, our next thing to take away is how do we identify emerging risks? That's a tough question, right? I mean, who knows what's coming down the road? Fortunately, higher ed, particularly the university system, has in place all these different canaries that can give us warnings. And I like, this group here. I'm new with this pointer, so let me have fun with it. All of our affinity groups, enrollment demographics, we have in-house across the system a cross-section of experts that meet regularly and talk about what's going on in their profession. Risks are coming up from these groups. Emerging risks are being identified by these groups. You know, one of the best in our university systems, I think, are the IT leaders, the IT cybersecurity leaders. They're constantly dealing with change management, constantly dealing with new threats. They're a great model to follow. If you've ever been to one of their meetings, they're almost as fun as an audit meeting. But they really do a nice job of looking forward, trying to find that next risk, because it's a race to beat the culprits who try to attack our systems. Regular management, you know, your staff meetings, these things come up. C8 meets once a week. Wow, what a great thing. I mean, everybody gets a chance to say, hey, something's coming down the pike. These are all great things in risk management and identifying emerging risks. Maybe the toughest part is the vigilance end. You know, our folks are pretty passionate about the risks they manage, but a lot of times you can become complacent. You're seeing the same things over and over. So it's good to reach out to everybody. I mentioned the regular staff meetings. Are you getting everybody's point of view from time to time? You got to touch the different points of light to make sure you're seeing everything. And I know that's a tough job for the presidents, but it's vitally important, I think. It's a tough job for the board. There's so much time in the day. You're stretched to the limit, I realize. Make the point to get and touch people, listen to what they have to say, and they're gonna tell you good information that you won't get otherwise. Now, I mentioned I was an internal auditor. Most people know me as the guy who runs internal audit. We have a heavy audit environment with USM. We're audited by the state. We have internal auditors. We have financial auditors. We have federal auditors, and more. We're constantly being audited. These questions, these discussions also speak the language of auditors. And we all know we could do a better job. I think we do a pretty good job. But it's helpful when you're negotiating your findings with some of these auditors to speak their language. They want to do a good job, and they want to understand the risk. It's important for them to do that. If you can talk in these terms, I think you're going to have a very productive conversation. I know it's a challenge sometimes. We work hard to meet folks at least 3/4 of the way. Not so in all these cases. But if you can get down to speak their language, I think you'll find a more productive conversation. I'm getting near the end. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our audit department. This is the org structure. Our function reports directly to the chair of the audit committee, Tom McMillan, currently fills that role, and administratively to the chancellor. All these folks here, this is our audit team. I can't, as grateful as I am for everything, I'm most grateful for these people. These are strong professionals. These are great individuals. I can't believe how lucky I am and the system is to have these folks out there doing our internal audits. As I leave, I worry about them. I care about them a great deal. Please take very good care of these folks, if you will. I love them dearly. Thank you, Jay. And again, thank you, everybody. My gosh, what a great run I've had. I feel like the luckiest person on the planet, truly. I've had great experiences, worked with unbelievable people. Thank you so much.
Are there questions for Dave on the audit function, or all of those organizations you saw? Tom?
Thank you, Tom.
Yes. Any other comments or thoughts? Anyone? All right, seeing none. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
We'll now move on to the report of the Chancellor's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I need to get my 2 cents in related to Dave as well. As you've heard, he is beginning a very well-earned retirement. He's given great service to this system, to its constituents. I think after all is said and done, we can acknowledge to each other that the system really has earned the trust of Maryland's leaders and its citizens, and that is in no small part due to that man's insistence on integrity and fairness in everything we do. So, yes, we're going to miss you, Dave, but we will remember what you taught us and what you expect of us. President Pines teed up rankings, so I need to start with a little bit of bragging on all of these folks here. U.S. News has just put out its list of the country's best graduate programs. For us, there are far too many to name, happily. So I'm going to highlight just a few. College Park, and you saw some of the information from Darrell. College Park has 36 schools and programs in the U.S. top 25, 36. Among them, the schools of engineering, education, public policy, public health. Its student counseling program took the #1 spot. Homeland Security, #3. So great achievements at College Park. And then UBalt's clinical law program, #4 in the nation. Its legal writing program jumped 35 spots to #16. At UMB, pharmacy was ranked a top 20 school. Maryland Carey Law has 3 specialties in the top 10. UMB School of Nursing is top 10 for its master's in nursing leadership and its Doctor of Nursing Practice in gerontology. Towson's programs in occupational therapy, audiology, speech-language pathology, very high marks. At UMES, physical therapy, rehabilitation counseling, singled out. UMBC shines in computer science, clinical psychology, public affairs, statistics. Bowie State's School of Education was ranked highly, as was Salisbury's. Salisbury is also celebrating a top 30 spot from Fortune for its MBA program, which is an incredible showing, given that that's a rankings debut. And I could go on, but I won't. While rankings endorse our excellence, our people provide far more compelling proof. 7 University System of Maryland students won Goldwater scholarships this year, one of the most prestigious awards for undergraduates pursuing STEM. College Park, Towson, Salisbury have 1 recipient apiece. UMBC has 4. I'm going to get the competitive juices flowing. Let me stay with UMBC. UMBC Mechanical Engineering senior Kaylee Ferguson was just named to the National Society of Black Engineers 25 under 25 list. Kaylee is president of UMBC's NSBE chapter, and fittingly, she was a Goldwater scholar last year. Very impressive. At UMES, Heidi, Isaiah Butler, who we've talked about, is a veteran of international fellowships, and he just won another, a Boren Award from the U.S. Defense Department, which allows him to spend a year in Japan focusing on language and cultural immersion tied to national security priorities. You know, the only thing more exciting than seeing what our students achieve on their own is what they achieve together. So Frostburg State engineering student Sailor Miller and Bryce Snyder finished #8 in a Lockheed Martin case competition. They were tasked with solving complex business and ethical problems in engineering, and they faced students from some of the country's top schools. They embraced together their dark horse status, and they put Frostburg squarely on that map. And for the second year in a row, architecture students at UMD made a clean sweep. You're not going to have heard about this competition, Daryl, of the National Concrete Competition. They clinched first, second, and third place medals with their versatile living learning community designs, National Concrete Competition. A student team from UMES has advanced to the finals of a NASA competition, conceptualizing novel advancements in commercial aviation maintenance to improve safety, efficiency, and industry costs. And I understand the team is going to present next month at NASA Langley in Virginia. Now, the students achieve alone and together, but I'd like to think that our faculty have something to do with this abundance of student excellence. And I'm going to have to direct you to my written report for many faculty honors for the sake of time. Now, as Chair Gooden mentioned, she and I had the privilege of being in Japan last week, helping to celebrate 70 years of UMGC presence, making a difference in Asia. At the Tokyo commencement ceremony, as you heard from the chair, we talked with graduates whose mission and sacrifice form the heart of their service. So these are military students, dependents as well, working full-time to take care of the rest of us, and then they find the time beyond that to prepare themselves to be good citizens by getting bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, becoming educated people. I can't tell you how inspiring it is to stand before them. I need to point out that UMGC keeps innovating how it serves these military learners. And part of that is actually accelerating their time to degree completion. UMGC uses a college board program to allow service members to test out of the subjects they already know so that they can get credit for them. 4 UMGC military base locations just ranked in the nation's top 20 overall for the number of tests taken. You show your proficiency, you get credit. Our commitment to military-connected learners doesn't stop at UMGC, though. UBALT earned a top 10 military-friendly ranking among U.S. small institutions. And among large institutions, Towson does the same. UMES, Salisbury, Bowie State round out our military-friendly schools. And as I alluded to a moment ago, while U.S. service members protect our American democracy, it's our engagement as citizens that perfects that democracy. So the Civic Renewal Initiative at Towson has won Insight into Academia's Civic Engagement and Community Service Award. That's a program that helps students cultivate skills in restorative practices, dialogue, civic discourse, and community organizing. And at Towson, students have partnered with College Park and the State Elections Board to launch a Go Vote app, giving citizens easy access to accurate election information. Mark, it's no surprise that Towson is a 2026 voter-friendly campus, together with Frostburg, UMES, UMBC. We're doing our part in exhorting our students to be good citizens. The entire point of civic education ultimately I think, is community engagement, giving a darn about the community, using our time, our talent, our influence assets to strengthen our community. So I need to just say a few words in that regard. We're celebrating, President Gerald, the state's final approval of UMB's West Lexington Corridor project. I know that neighborhood well. It's an extraordinary opportunity to reshape not just the northern end of UMB's campus, but as or more important, the communities that the campus touches. The plan includes a very expansive housing, retail, entertainment, and athletic space, not just for the campus, but open to all. Now, my friend President Gerald was just voted into the Baltimore Sun's Business and Civic Hall of Fame, and I think in large part on the strength of his bold vision for community development. Let's talk about MCs for a minute. They just held a two-day retreat at the new Chesapeake Analytics Collaborative Building, which is part of the Global Collaboratory. I've been down there, and when I looked at this collaboratory, I said, the Regents need to see this. So you can be mad at me, but we're going down there. September meeting, you'll be glad when you get there. You'll be impressed. At this collaborative building, staff from 7 state agencies, collaborative, joined UMCs to prioritize environmental challenges and solutions, focusing on collaborative projects in water systems, land use, ecosystem health, and climate resilience, where existing resources that we already have can be pulled together to yield big impacts. At Salisbury, President LaPree, the Rommel Center for Entrepreneurship is forming an angel investing group to provide capital, mentorship, industry connections to early stage companies across sectors. It's called the Mainsail Angel Network, and it's going to advance Salisbury's efforts to strengthen the Shore's startup ecosystem and position SU as a destination for entrepreneurial talent, joining many of our other institutions in that regard. And I need to mention the universities at Shady Grove. It's investing in its own entrepreneurs, expanding its marketplace into a network of interconnected assets. And they include a fabrication shop, an electronics lab, an open access studio, an innovation hall, helping students move ideas from concept to creation. A lot of what we heard last night from President Pines and his colleagues. In engaging our neighbors more effectively by opening our doors wide to them, I need to mention Southern Maryland, where we also have a wonderful RHEC. The USM at Southern Maryland hosted a Leadership Southern Maryland Forum, and they got together business, industry, government, military partners in the work of strengthening local education pathways, which we're going to engage in with them, K-12 through college and then through career. And I also need to mention Coppin State, which hosted a two-day summit a little bit further away, a two-day summit in Los Angeles, which they called West Baltimore meets the West Coast. President Jenkins had to have come up with that one. Introducing California students to the programs, the careers, and the community that HBCUs offer. Congratulations on going far and wide. Now, none of this work matters without the resources to do it. In a challenging state and federal landscape, I need to point out that our universities are investing in their own long-term strength and agility. UMB and College Park are infusing millions of dollars into their own research, deploying investments to stabilize and retain at-risk programs and faculty, to accelerate promising projects rather than let them go, and strengthen key capabilities so that we can compete, progress long-term. Coppin State's Faculty Success and Development Initiative is supporting 18 faculty whose scholarship aligns with student outcomes and community impact. And Bowie State just got a huge endorsement of its BSU Bold priorities. Bowie's Campaign for Excellence raised $129 million. That's only more than double the campaign's original goal. Obviously, the most significant fundraising milestone in university history. And don't we all know it from our meetings there? The USM at Hagerstown knows how to have fun. I need to point that out. It had its inaugural pickleball tournament. And what did they call it? The Big Dill. Get it? Marrying fun with philanthropy. And local businesses turned out in force, the business community, Jacob, to raise dollars for student scholarships. That's the way to get the community behind you. I would say it's a big deal. Get it? Let me turn to the legislative session, finally, which ended on Monday. 2,700 bills filed, more than 300 of them affecting our system, our people, our work. My observations, I think, shared with Susan, it wasn't just the size of the legislative agenda that made this year, I think, arguably more frenetic than usual, more frenetic than I remember in 17 legislative seasons that I've been through in my roles here in the system. It was the pace. A huge number of bills passed out of their committees quickly. And that required an enormous amount of work in analysis and advocacy. Key pieces of legislation, apart from that rapidity where we were racing to catch up, were still being debated last week. And 50-some bills went to conference committee before they could get to the whole floor, just hours before sine die. I will acknowledge to this audience that I was texting legislators 9 o'clock Monday evening. We had to use every minute of the session's 90 days, and by we, it's these presidents, their staff beyond that, where legislators were demanding data. A lot of your folks worked all weekend sometimes to get them what they wanted. And yes, the biggest headline for us is collective bargaining rights. One bill extends those rights to non-tenure track faculty system-wide, excluding UMGC, which has a different model. And another of those bills extends them to graduate students at College Park and UMBC. The graduate assistant bill has a July 2028 start date, while the non-tenure track bill takes effect this July 1, meaning our universities, even as we speak, are already deep in the work of assessing the bill's scope and potential impact and dealing with requests for information attendant to preparing for the advent of collective bargaining. Let me emphasize that again. What the legislature passed gives folks the option, the right to collective bargaining. That still needs to be voted on by our employees. Moving from collective bargaining, many of us followed intensively the program approval bill, which would have extended to undergraduate programs the process for objecting over concerns of duplication. That bill failed to pass, meaning the objection process still applies only to proposed graduate programs. I was particularly pleased with the passage of two bills I'm going to mention that made it out of conference committee and to the floor with just hours to go in the session, and they passed. One of the bills, which was championed by Senator Harris and Delegate Patterson, sets the stage for an early college teacher pathway program in Southern Maryland, and more broadly for the expansion of early college opportunities statewide. Dr. Nesberry of our Southern Maryland facility is not here today because he's representing all of us at the inauguration of our colleague, Dr. Rhonda Phillips at St. Mary's, but I want to thank him for his leadership as we fought for passage of that bill. And the second bill, which many of you were involved in, was sponsored by Senator Katie Fry-Hesser, which establishes an AI partnership at the system to guide and accelerate responsible AI use across state agencies and small business to grow Maryland's AI workforce. We were designated, and we are proud to lead that important effort. And with regard to the budget, Chair Gooden commented on it, noted our appreciation. The FY27 budget passed out of the legislature. That passed out, talk about movement, in near record time. You all know that Maryland entered the session with a $1.4 billion deficit. We ended it with a budget that closes that state gap. And after several years of significant cuts that we've endured, which are permanent, it keeps the system more or less whole. Our leaders in the state chose to continue to invest in quantum, in our HBCUs, in our campus facilities, and in the faculty and staff responsible for our excellence. We are grateful for a 1.5% COLA for our employees because salaries obviously still struggle to keep pace with inflation. I'm happy to say we were successful, collective effort, in convincing our state leaders to invest in our research and development at this difficult time. They agreed to invest $25 million in the budget, new money, one time, to help us safeguard our research and our research teams in the short term, so that we can continue to work on executing a long-term strategy to diversify our funding portfolio, pivot programs to areas of federal priority, and hopefully strengthen our research enterprise overall. So, yes, I'm grateful to Maryland leaders for drafting and passing a budget that allows us to support our priorities and our people. But we have to all recognize, and I've told this to our shared governance bodies, that it's a flat budget, so to speak, a little bit of an increase, but we live in a world of increasing costs that are going to continue to challenge us going forward. Again, I do want to say that I'm grateful to my colleagues who've spent long days in Annapolis advocating for our universities, our system, our mission. That includes our faculty, staff, and students. They advocated too. We were all in this and are in all of this together. And I too have to close by thanking Vice Chancellor Susan Lawrence, her team, together with the government relation teams at every one of our university. They worked incredibly hard, Regents, for 90 days on a lot of coffee and very little sleep. I'm indebted to you all. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Questions for the Chancellor? Seeing none, thank you, Chancellor, for your report. Our next report is the Council of University System Faculty. Dr. King White will present the report today.
Thank you. President Pines, thank you and your campus for hosting today's meeting. The dinner last night was excellent and your presentation's inspiring. Plus, it's nice to come home. 24 years ago this fall, I walked onto this campus as a young student pursuing my master's and PhD. And I, much less well put together as Drew and Jefferson over there, I might add. But I'd like to take a moment to recognize someone who's on your campus who you most likely would not know, Dr. David Andrews, my advisor. Although he counts someone who many people in this room would know, Tim Chandler, as his mentor, their commonalities begin and end with them being Englishmen. In other words, strip away the British charm and political polish of Dr. Chandler, and that's Dr. Andrews. As his student, Dave was my personal reviewer too. Ryan, you can do better, was a constant refrain, and I would write and rewrite again to seek his approval as an academic, and seemingly never received it. Interestingly, one of my contemporaries had a different relationship with Dr. Andrews. She always waxed poetic about how he was always there for her when she most needed it, helping her finish a dissertation, get a job. And many of his other students would say the same. I always joked that he must have skipped a generation with me until now. Many of you know that our daughter is sick with Hodgkin lymphoma and is at Sibley receiving radiation treatment as I speak. Many of you and our broader community have reached out for support in a variety of ways. Towson Volleyball, Salisbury Swim, Officer Chip, and others in the USM, to Calvert Hall, where our son got in, and Bryn Mawr, where Evelyn will go, their golf teams, even LPGA's Rose Zhang reached out. It has been felt and appreciated. However, I was reminded during a conversation with a middle school principal that Dr. Andrews and our kids share in Towson that he went through the same thing as a father with a family member 10 years ago. And so I reached out for guidance. Dr. Andrews has guided me through the terror of treatment, counseled me on how to be the best husband, father, and professional I can be during this difficult time. In short, he's been there for me when I needed it most. And President Pines, I wanted you to know that, and to share that you have good people working for and with you here at College Park. I am proud to be a Terp. I'm also a Tiger. All right, CUSIF, I'm going to report on February and March, although we just had our April meeting on Wednesday. I would like to share the good work of our executive committee, as I will report next meeting on our incoming committee. And I just want the various presidents and the board to know the good people that put their time together for us this year. Dr. Maida Finch of Salisbury served as our vice chair. She will be returning. Dr. Miroslav Janowski of the University of Baltimore will be stepping aside, but he was our secretary this year. Dr. Lori Naylor will be taking over as secretary. She's at the University of Baltimore. Dr. Weiwei Stone of the University of Maryland Eastern Shore will be stepping aside this year. And Dr. Heather Haverback, who was past chair at Towson University. I also am very thankful to Kelsey, Beckett, and Dr. Rinn for their guidance and support this year. And even if we didn't always agree, I think it was a very productive year working together. And I will be returning as chair next year as long as things progress the way we hope. So I am also humbled to be looking for Allison's replacement on the search committee. I hope you enjoy golfing in California. Getting back to that. So most of the things we focused on in February and March were Advocacy Day and setting up the vote for the election, and also really stepping up with the goal of bringing presidents and faculty senate chairs to our meetings to hear what's going on different campuses. We started with President Jenkins at Coppin in December. We had Dr. President Bro, from Bowie State come during the period that we're reporting on. It was well received. The faculty really enjoyed hearing the vision and things like that from various campus leaders and some of the things we're struggling with as well. The second part that we really worked on was Advocacy Day, which I was unable to attend, but by all reports, the faculty represented themselves respectfully and well, and I'm quite happy with that. And that I have Maida Finch to thank for taking over on that front. We did run our election. We worked very hard to run a fair election that everyone could be confident in the results in, and I will again report on who's incoming at the next meeting, mostly because I want to make sure that there's no mess-ups with somebody whose term on CUSIF ended, but they're on XCOM. So I don't want to have to re-report. In our small committees, Ed Policy pushed forth, we affirmed through them the policy on professional conduct and workplace bullying in March, and they continue to work on their AI unscripted podcast. Faculty Affairs reviewed the bullying policy for Ed Pol and helped garner unanimous affirmation in that meeting in March. And they co-sponsored a joint resolution on the policy regarding faculty search processes that were passed unanimously in the general body. They are, I think to the President's interest, are working on a white paper regarding campus safety to be presented at our next meeting. And I know when I've presented this at Chancellor's Council, there's been a lot of interest in seeing that and seeing how we can improve on that study. Legislative Affairs did a nice job of representing us in leading Advocacy Day. Research Committee is working on a collaboratorium of research across institutions and are getting back to me a little bit more with more detail. And finally, the Rules Committee, I do have to thank Dr. Sabrina Fu of UMGC and Dr. Jordan Sly at College Park for running the election most recently. With that, I will conclude my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. King-White. Are there any questions for Dr. King-White? Seeing none, thank you for your report. The next report is the Council of University System Staff by Ms. Carpenter.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Gooden, Chancellor Perman, Regents, and Presidents. As this is my first time addressing this body, let me take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Meredith Carpenter, and I'm the Vice Chair for the Council of University System Staff. Our Chair, Roy Prouty, is away, so I represent CUS this morning. I've served with CUS for 6 years now, and I'm a staff member at the University of Maryland College Park, where I serve as the Associate Director in the Department of Resident Life, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. The CUS written report is in your packet, and I'll reiterate a few of our comments. The Council of University System Staff held 2 meetings since the last report. On March 10th, we were hosted virtually by UMSES. We would like to thank Vice Chancellor for Environmental Sustainability and President of UMSES, Fernando Morales-Wilhelm, for his time and his remarks in that meeting. Earlier this week, CUS met on April 14th in person at UMBC. We thank President Valerie Shears Ashby for her remarks and welcome to campus. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 12th and will be held virtually at UMES. Between now and our next meeting, the Council of University System Staff will also participate in the USM Board of Regents Faculty and Staff Awards at that celebration in late April. In other news, the Council has concluded the administration of the 2025 and 2026 State of Staff Shared Governance Survey. Please note, this part is slightly different from what was stated in the packet. The individualized reports for each campus are yet to be delivered to each president and to the chancellor. Excuse me. But we anticipate that will take place next week. And then shortly thereafter, the system's summary results will be made publicly available. Regarding staff views of campus relations, while competitive wages, clear workplace policies, and access to benefits is always top of mind for system staff, a general lack of awareness concerning our university's budgets and impacts on staff and units is playing a larger and larger role in conversations on our campus. System staff understand that right-sizing, reorganizations, and position elimination are sometimes a necessity, but unannounced staff reductions generate anxiety. When regular and clear budget updates do not occur, rumors and distrust may fill the void. As we've mentioned in the past to this board, CUS believes a lack of clear communication can do more damage to morale, retention, and workplace culture and productivity than outright bad news. Many system staff are eager to understand, contextualize, and share in the various realities of our campus. We understand these challenges as many of us carry the work that restricted budgets create. However, the Council continues to urge the system presidents and chancellor to help resolve this lack of information. It's our hope that you take our suggestion to create space for informative conversations around how university budgets are built and administered at each campus. Lastly, the Council remains eager to resolve issues we've previously spoken about around tuition remission, duplicative fees, access to ombud services, and wage compression that is occurring more often between staffing levels. I hope we can continue to improve our practices and include staff in decision-making, keep staff informed of changes, and provide opportunities for staff growth throughout the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Carpenter? Seeing none, thank you for your report, and we'll move on to the Council of University Systems Presidents, President Bro.
Good morning, Chair Gooden. Good morning, Chancellor, Board of Regents, colleagues. I also want to add my appreciation to President Pines for the hospitality last evening and congratulate him on those amazing students who presented to us last evening. They were so extremely impressive, and congratulations for his strong leadership here at the University of Maryland. The last time I was on the campus was just about a week ago when we hosted the Social Justice Alliance, which is an alliance we have between Bowie State University and the University of Maryland College Park, where we continue to honor the life and legacy of Lieutenant Richard Collins III. And so I'd like to once again thank my colleague for his leadership as we continue to move forward to address social injustice in our society and support of that symposium. We are celebrating the 8th annual symposium for Social Justice Alliance. So could you give my colleague a round of applause for his partnership? On behalf of CUSP, we'd like to just thank Dave Mosca and wish him very well in his future, and we will take care of the people as he asked us to do, we promise. And thank you, Dave, for all of your efforts and your team for all that you've done for our campuses. The students, since the last Board of Regents meeting, the Chancellor's Council and the Council of University System Presidents, CUSP, met on March 2nd and March 30th via Zoom. On March 2nd, the presidents heard from Vice Chancellor for Communications and Marketing, Sandler, and Assistant Attorney General Boyle, who led a discussion on Know Your Rights, resources and guidance related to interactions with ICE. Vice Chancellor, I'd like to recognize our council colleagues council student colleagues who brought to light for the presidents our need to raise greater awareness around the issues and concerns our students were facing across the system. And as a result, we put together more of a marketing strategy to enhance what we were doing on the campuses. In addition, Vice Chancellor for Research and Economic Development, Ms. Chuchi, presented on the Governor's Economic Competitiveness Subcabinet. The presidents received also a presentation on advancing the system's investment strategy and long-term value creation from USM Foundation leadership and system staff. Senior Vice Chancellor for Administration and Finance, Ellen Herbst, and Associate Vice Chancellor CIO Eismeyer presented findings from the Shared Services Benchmark Study. And Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Carrico, led a discussion on a shared academic calendar. The presidents also received a legislative update from Vice Chancellor for Legislative Affairs, Lawrence, and I'd like to also add our thanks and appreciation to Susan Lawrence for her leadership and the entire team through the 90-day session. And I know we have applauded you once, but I think you deserve another round of applause, please. And to all of our teams back on the campuses, we thank them. At the March 30th, 2026 meeting, Vice Chancellor for Marketing and Communications, Sandler, presented on a student social media campaign, and Associate Vice Chancellor for Human Resources, Channon, presented proposed amendments to Policy 7.8.05 on professional conduct and workplace bullying, which you heard just recently mentioned in the earlier report. Vice Chancellor Lawrence again provided a legislative update, and President Pines led a discussion on presidential priorities and actions for the remainder of the legislative session. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for President Breaux? Seeing none, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Our final council report this morning is the University System of Maryland Student Council and Mr. Reyes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Pardon the really long route here, but good morning, Chair Gooden, Chancellor Perman, and members of the Board of Regents. First of all, welcome to the University of Maryland College Park. I'm excited to be here. I was joking with someone yesterday, the farthest I think I've traveled for one of these meetings. And by that, I mean it was a 10-minute walk from South Campus Commons. Yeah. But to go ahead and start my report, the USM Student Council has been busy and hard at work since we last met. I'm pleased to share that we have completed the selection process for the USM Board of Regents Student Excellence Scholarships. We had over 298 candidates this year. And myself and members of the selection committee were nothing but in awe of the talent and brilliance of our students. Of course, I would like to thank Dr. Zakia Lee for her guidance and the behind-the-scenes work, our university's Division of Student Affairs, and the representatives for spreading the word. In March, the council met virtually as a full council, and during the meeting, our graduate student representatives shared their concerns. And affordability is the #1 concern. Some of them have shared that housing costs, unexpected expenses, and other fees have consumed most of their stipend income. In addition, external factors have caused grocery and gas prices to rise sharply, putting many of our graduate students at risk of food insecurity and causing them to be concerned about their progress in their graduate programs. On March 23rd, the USMSC met with Governor Westmore to discuss the importance of public higher education, students' free speech concerns, academic freedom, and the system's budget. At his request, we will follow up to discuss these concerns in depth. And if you're looking at the report, there's actually the official photo from the meeting that's pinned in there, and I think we have majority of our representatives, so very exciting stuff there. We met again on April 12th as a full council, virtually hosted by Salisbury University. Several themes emerged across our campus reports. Affordability deepened as a greater concern following the FY 2027 tuition increases between the range of 2% to 5%, and room and board increases of up to 10% at some of our institutions. Our representatives, along with our student regents, are concerned about whether these proposed increases properly consider the economic climate in our state and the circumstances families are facing amid high costs across the board, and if the promise of guaranteeing long-term affordability will remain true. As a new business item, we received a presentation from the UMDSGA and the USM Divestment Coalition that included a divestment resolution. The group was seeking USMSC support for its resolution encouraging the Board of Regents and the USM Foundation to divest from arms-producing companies. After a thorough discussion, the motion was tabled. USMSC representatives shared concerns, questions, and multiple suggestions to amend the resolution. We anticipate that the coalition representatives will submit an amended resolution within the next week, and the USMSC will likely have a special session to review and further consider the updated resolution. I will ask our representatives to take the proposed resolution back to their campuses for review so they can vote in line with their governing body's will. ICE-related operations are still seen as a source of fear and concern across our system community. During the meeting, many of us came together to identify ways to support one another system-wide, leading to cross-collaboration. Many of our representatives have shared how they're distributing institution-created Know Your Rights documents or resources from community partners. Despite the challenge, our students are identifying ways to help one another via community. I would like to thank Vice Chancellor Michael Sandler, Chancellor Perman, and our system presidents for taking note and action on this issue. And I encourage continued attention from all of us. One final thing, nominations for the USMSC are open. Please help us spread the word in your campus community. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Reyes? Seeing none, thank you for your report. The next order of business is the consent agenda. Decisions regarding which items to include on the consent agenda were made by me and the committee chairs. However, any regent may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for separate review and discussion. Before I move approval of the consent agenda, I ask if there are any items that any regent would like removed from the consent agenda for separate review and discussion. Yes, Drew.
Four of the five public speakers today during our public comment session, who are students I represent, discussed the advancement-related Board of Regents policies, so I feel compelled to ask that we review that as a full board just so everyone can hear this information update. And I would ask if the system staff could briefly address some of the concerns raised by those speakers as well.
And which item is that?
That is under the Advancement Committee. It's number 6, Advancement-Related Board of Regents Policies.
Under which heading?
I'm sorry?
I still don't know which item.
Under the consent agenda, it's item B, Committee on Advancement 6, Advancement-Related Board of Regents Policies. It's just an information item, but I think that the whole board should hear it.
Okay, so on the Committee of Advancement, item 6. All right. You said you had 2?
I'm sorry?
Did
No,
you
just
have?
this one.
Oh, just this one, okay. Any others? Okay. So I move all items on the consent agenda except the one removed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any abstentions? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. All right. It's been so long since we did one of these. Okay. So we have an item here, the Office of Legislative Audit Activity, and item 6. And who's going to discuss that? I guess, Tom, it's under audit. Oh, no, or advancement. Who's doing it?
Well, I'm the chair of the advancement committee.
So I guess it's you.
Submitted by Tim. I have no idea what.
Yeah. Give us a minute. So, Drew, what exactly are you looking for?
Just the same update that was presented to the Advancement Committee, and if there are any comments that could be made in specifically addressing the concerns raised by the public speakers.
Okay. Tim, are you here? All right. Can you go to the podium and... No.
No, it's here, it's on my computer.
Here, Gooden.
Good morning.
Morning, Tim.
Regarding the subject item, this is for the advancement-related item. The Regents Advancement Committee met with explicit design to review all the policies related to advancement, and so this was just subject to reviewing each policy as they become dated, and this particular one was to review 2 policies. The first policy was on ethical practices and charitable giving, and the second was the use of foundation and alumni associated funds. And so it's information review.
So, Drew, what is your specific question?
One of the concerns raised that I think I did empathize with was they said that they had requested meetings unsuccessfully to share feedback about some of these policies. I was wondering if that was something that we could do, is make sure that some of your staff gets the chance to sit down with them and hear directly.
To hear with the committee itself, or which policy?
Either staff or the committee or both.
And this is with the committee. I'm sorry, I don't understand this specific question.
I think what Drew is asking is, do the students have some means to provide feedback to the policies? And I think, Denise, that's through the shared governance process that all policies go through. And so, Denise, could maybe you explain?
Yes. All of our policies, when they come up, go through a routing process where shared governance is part of it. So our policies are vetted through the senior staff, all of the vice chancellors in the system. It's routed through the AG's office. It is presented to CUSP as well as the council chairs in the Chancellor's Council, and that is the routing process by which students get a chance to review policies. So when we meet as a council and present those policies, they're given to each of the chairs, to CUSIF, the Student Council, and to Staff Council, along with the presidents.
Okay, and that information was shared with those students who said they had requested unsuccessfully meetings about those specific policies?
Well, I'm not aware of any requests that have come in asking specifically to review policies. Can you, I mean, if you have access to this information, I would love to see it because I have not seen any requests where they've asked specifically to review policies.
I'll follow up offline with the speakers who came today and ask about whether they actually formally made those requests.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, well, let's finish with Drew first. Drew, any further questions?
I mean, that's sufficient if that's all that the
Okay.
update is.
Okay, and
All
if I may add, they've come to public comment at board meetings and specifically addressed the issue of divestment as it relates to our policies. The foundation has a process by which they can address the foundation to speak to divestment of timber.
I can speak to that specifically. For this particular session, March 2nd was the date that any of the information and request or inquiry was to be submitted. There was one that was submitted. That response went back to the inquiry for that particular one, and an email was sent. The Sustainability Committee has met. That information is being sent then through our process, and we responded in kind to that information. So they've received the initial response, but not the full response once that's under review by the investment committee.
Thanks. Is that initial response and eventually that later response going to be shared with either the shared governance bodies as well or the regents?
The initial response was shared with all stakeholders that submitted that initial response, or it submitted that inquiry.
But yes, in answer to your question, we can, Denise, can you share that with the regents?
Thank you.
Okay. Regent Hassan.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things which, since I've been involved in this board, I've been seeing folks coming up and raising their voice concerns about the endowment or the investments and all that. And I feel it's now time to have the dialogue with those students who are coming up and raising their concerns and hear them out. I mean, I think communication always help and diffuse the situation versus we are consistently seeing that protest or concerns is growing up. So I would recommend that there should be a task force, somebody should have a communication with that group and come to some kind of resolution to that situation instead of we seeing that again and again here.
All right, Denise will take that action and we'll look at how we might facilitate it. Any other comments? Okay, then we'll move on to committee reports. And we did. We voted on all items except the one we removed. Oh, we need to vote on that one? Okay. So we're going to take a vote on the item that was removed.
It was just an information item, though.
It was an information. Thank you. Thanks, Drew. All right. So now can we move on to committee reports? All right. The Committee on Finance will be the first report, and I guess I was remiss at the beginning. We have 4 regents who are on Zoom today, one of whom is the Finance Committee Chair, and Regent Gordine, and Regent Gordine. Yes, Regent Gordine and Regent Fish are both on Zoom today. So first up, we'll hear from Finance Committee, beginning with an item for action regarding the 2027 self-support charges and fees. Regent Fish is joining us remotely, and Regent Fish, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Gooden, and good morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay, great. So our first item, these charges that we're looking at cover expenses that are related to student housing, to dining, and parking operations on our campuses. Are you able to hear me? Okay, thank you. This item, together with the next item on the agenda, represents one of the board's most important responsibilities. And that responsibility is balancing affordability for students and families
In reviewing these rates, we understand that the board is always mindful of the impact on students. This schedule, together with the tuition and fee schedule that follows this item, represents one of the board's most important responsibilities, balancing affordability for students and families with the operational vitality and sustainability of our institutions. In general, the proposed increases reflect higher costs for employee wages and benefits, food, utilities, maintenance, and operating expenses related to inflation. And if I might just share with the board, in the last 5 years, from fiscal year 22 to 26, salary increases have been declared at 24% in 5 years. For operations on our campuses that are considered auxiliary, i.e. not supported by state appropriations, these increases have to be covered by revenue generated by the auxiliary operations. Now, for housing, the typical dormitory room rate increases in your schedules range from 1.4% at Salisbury to 10% at Bowie. At Bowie, the increase reflects the growing demand for year-round housing. The shift towards 12-month operations increases costs for security, staffing, and student programming. And the university is seeing an increased need to support housing insecure students, as well as demand from out-of-state students and student athletes, which further extends residence hall use beyond the traditional academic year. The proposed increase also reflects rising service and contract costs, as well as ongoing maintenance, operations, and deferred maintenance needs required to operate the housing system safely and effectively. The increases at UMES and Coppin are tied to addressing deferred maintenance and improving residence hall conditions. On the dining side, typical board rates increase from about 2.2% at College Park to 10% at Bowie. And again, at Bowie, these increases are designed to ensure planned investments in equipment and infrastructure, along with expanded healthy food offerings, while also managing rising food and supply costs. These updates are expected to improve the overall dining experience for students. Finally, on parking, 3 institutions have proposed parking rate increases, with the dollar increases ranging from $5 to $23. As per board policy, every institution engages with students in these requested increases prior to bringing them to the board, and you have a summary of the student engagement process. I'll pause here for any questions.
Questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the self-support charges and fees for fiscal year 2027 as set forth?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Now we'll go on.
Thank you. The next item is the University of System fiscal year 2027 schedule of tuition and mandatory fees request. So every year, the board undertakes a comprehensive review and evaluation of proposed tuition and fee rate adjustments presented by the institutions. As with the item just voted on, this continues the board's focus on affordability for students and families alongside institutional sustainability. We'll start with undergraduate rates. For FY27, resident undergraduate tuition will not increase more than 5% for full and part-time students. 6 institutions have proposed increases of 3% or more. And for all institutions, resident undergraduate full-time costs, which is tuition plus mandatory fees, will not exceed 4.4% year over year. Tuition rates for non-resident students will increase by no more than 5%, with the costs totaling between tuition and mandatory fees not exceeding 5.2%. These increases are necessary for USM institutions to maintain competitiveness while continuing to provide an affordable and enriching educational experience. The schedule you have also includes requests for differential tuition rates under Section 2B of the board's tuition policy, which are based on program modality and geographic considerations. In summary, UMB seeks approval of a rate for its new Doctor of Social Work program. UMES seeks approval to establish a separate tuition structure for fully online programs. UMES also proposes tuition and fees for its forthcoming Doctor of Veterinary Medicine program. University of Baltimore seeks approval of a differential rate for an international cohort program supporting its MS in Business. And Frostburg seeks to approval to establish a unified tuition rate for fully online graduate and doctoral programs. And you will hear in the next 2 items from 2 universities talking about additional requests around tuition. Graduate tuition rates vary by program and institution and are reflected in your schedule. Mandatory fees, which is also in this item, are also included and support services such as student unions, recreation centers, and athletics. Fees increase from 0% at some campuses to 7.3%. And again, the increase in fees reflects rising personnel and operating costs, as well as the need to sustain and enhance programs. And once again, institutions are required by board policy to consult with student representatives, and summaries of that engagement are included in your materials. The projected total revenue from tuition and mandatory fees for these increases for FY27 is expected to increase by approximately $59.3 million, or 2.9% over FY26 levels, and I will pause here for questions.
Questions for Vice Chancellor Hertz? Seeing none.
I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay.
I just wanted to take a brief sec, like I did in the Finance Committee meeting, just to explain why I'm voting against this item. I don't believe that I can support continuing the trend of increasing tuition year after year, when I believe this will have negative long-term consequences for our university system. I believe that this will eventually harm our enrollment figures because our prospective students will look to alternative options, such as 2-year community colleges. And I've also, as many of you know, written about the declining public trust in higher education, which is a topic that I know everyone in this room has a very personal stake in. And I think that this sends the wrong message of continuing that trend at a time when our communities are really counting on us to remain accessible and affordable, when so few other public utilities are remaining accessible and affordable. So that's why I'll be voting against this. Thanks.
Thank you. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the tuition and mandatory fees?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, our last item is Frostburg University's expansion and restructuring.
I think we have Frostburg and Towson separately.
Frostburg University seeks approval from the board to expand and restructure its current regional tuition program beginning in academic year 2027-2028. This request is made pursuant to board policy 8-201, Policy on Tuition, Section 2, which permits institutions with board approval to offer reduced tuition rates to students from designated geographic areas when justified by factors such as regional economic impact, student recruitment goals, and community partnership. Is there anything you'd like to add, Vice Chancellor Hurst?
I would cede to Dr. Smith to see if she wanted to add anything.
There.
Now we can.
I'm not sure how much to respond. I could go on for quite some time. I will sit there and just say that the request is very purposeful. There was a great deal of analysis done. And for the Regents who were not part of the Finance Committee, let me say that Frostburg State University, as the anchor institution in Western Maryland, really works in a multi-state environment, unlike our sister institutions across the system. For years, we have been treating, I would say, the symptoms of a structural problem. And when I say treating the symptoms, we have retrenched faculty, we have laid off, we have reorganized, we have done a lot to focus on operational efficiencies to streamline our operations. But at the heart of the problem is that geographically, we are structurally challenged. Unlike downstate, when you might travel 5 miles north, south, east, or west, you're going to cross county lines. In Western Maryland, if you travel 5 miles east, west, you're going to cross state lines. And our analysis, so just give me it real quick, that in terms of the landmass within a 60-mile radius of Frostburg State University, 89% of the landmass falls outside of the state of Maryland. 70% of the population falls outside of the state of Maryland. Compared this to Bowie, where 27% of the landmass falls outside of the state of Maryland within a 60-mile radius, or only 24% of the population. So it's just a way of reiterating that we have unique structural issues in this multi-state area. Population density is significantly less. The rural population more economically constrained. And we feel that by extending eligibility for in-state tuition, we have significant opportunity to expand enrollment as well as improve retention yield to lower overall cost of attendance.
I'll move it. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. The last item from the Committee on Finance is related to Towson University and its implementation of a pilot undergraduate regional tuition rate program. Mark, is there anything you can do to, any highlights?
Sure, welcome doing it. Before I do that, let me take one moment, if I could, just to congratulate and ask you all to join me in congratulating Rain Rivera Forbes, who last night was announced she's been elected as the next president of the Towson University Student Government Association. Very proud of you, Rain. Very proud of you. Congratulations. With me also is Michael Palmer, our interim Chief Financial Officer. You know, today, every university is looking at enrollment as a challenge, and the enrollment cliff is upon us. And at Towson University, one of the key challenges we have been facing is out-of-state enrollment. We've seen a significant reduction in the number of out-of-state students who have enrolled at the university, even though we remain having a significant number of out-of-state students who apply for admission to our university. And most notably, market research has shown us that 63% or more of families eliminate college and their choice of college based upon sticker price. And the associated cost is certainly a factor for many. As a result of this, many universities have engaged in very active marketing campaigns, but they've also begun to think about how to create better incentives and different models for tuition pricing. Some universities, including those in Maryland, have begun to design and implement more inventive structural approaches to tuition, much like you've heard at Frostburg, at Compton, and other places, to offer more competitive pricing. As a result, at Towson University, our out-of-state domestic population has declined over the last decade by more than 10%. Our undergraduate enrollment today was at around 17% out of state in 2015, and today it's 8% out of state, irrespective of international students. Also today, 90% of the students who come to Towson University when they complete their studies at the university remain in Maryland, and that 90% includes out-of-state students as well. Most of the out-of-state students who come to Towson come from a relatively small number of states within a 7-state region around the university. Yet most of the students who apply from those out-of-state places, and I'll tell you about which ones they are in a second, oftentimes do not enroll in large part because of pricing. And we believe, and our market research has demonstrated, that this reduction in yield is directly related to the sensitivity in price. So for the last few years, and accelerating since my arrival in 2023, our university began a scholarship program that we call Black and Gold, the colors of the institution. It's a financial aid approach, though, not a reduction in tuition approach. And financial aid, although helpful, is limited in scope, limited in size, and it's not known to students at the time of application, and oftentimes not even known to students at the time of admission. But most notably, financial aid is not a discount in tuition, it's a financial aid, and those dollars need to be repaid, in a sense, to the university to offset the cost of tuition. So although there's a benefit to the students, and it's helped to grow slightly our out-of-state population, it's been very expensive for the university and not been as significantly beneficial as we had anticipated. So we believe that it's time now for our university to be entrepreneurial in a greater sense, to be strategic, to be creative, to be more competitive, but most of all, to be bold. So the Board of Regents policy, Chair Gooden, as you said, allows for some innovative tuition pricing, and we believe that it's timely, I would argue even essential, if we're to be successful with out-of-state enrollment at our institution, to institute what we're calling a regional tuition model. This model is distinct from a financial aid model, and its focus is on 7 jurisdictions from the primary region from which students come. Those jurisdictions are the District of Columbia, in alphabetical order, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. In so doing, we would propose to continue our Black and Gold scholarship program as a way to top off for need-based students, but also provide some additional system for merit-based students, and also to continue our Black and Gold program for the more limited number of students who apply to the university from jurisdictions outside of these 7 states. We've learned, however, that there have been several different approaches for how to conduct a regional model like this. And our research has shown that there are 3 principles that are most important in developing these approaches. One is the model is best when it's simple. That is, it's easily communicated and not overly complicated. Second, it's important that the model be clear so that it is well understood and that it's consistent. And thirdly, and perhaps just as importantly, it's important that it be easy to implement administratively and easy to implement logistically. So we've settled on an approach that meets these 3 criteria, and we're proposing an approach that would be a pilot for 4 years of students who enter the university in fall 2027, that is not this fall, but next fall, and continued for their predicted and projected remaining at the university. And the model that we're proposing is that there be a regional tuition model for these 7 jurisdictions that amounts to 200% of our in-state, 200% of our in-state tuition for these 7 jurisdictions. We believe the yield of students will increase. We believe the application from these 7 jurisdictions will increase. And we believe, consequently, enrollment will increase. Yet, consequently, we also believe that income will increase. So our forecast is that after the initial implementation, and you can see, by the way, on the screen, how our numbers at 200% of in-state tuition would relate to our competition, who are primary competition for the university. We believe that after several years of growing our out-of-state population, of having this approach take hold, that the estimated additional revenue to the university in tuition dollars alone would be approximately $10 million annually, exclusive of academic fees and exclusive of auxiliary revenue, including housing and dining. We also believe, and our research and forecast suggest, that this model will not only succeed in increasing out-of-state yield, it will also yield students who stay in Maryland after they graduate, which is both good for our state in terms of the workforce, good for our state in terms of the tax benefits for the state, and good for our state in many, many different ways. So in summary, our proposal suggests that enrollment would grow. It would grow incrementally at first, and then continue to grow almost arithmetically into the future. This would help to assure the financial sustainability at Towson University during a time of financial uncertainty with respect to state allocation and with respect to enrollment. It will continue to grow the diversity of our student body, including the geographic diversity of our student body. And it will allow, as I said, for increased workforce development around the state. But overall, we believe that this pilot would be good not only for Towson University, but good for the USM. Good for our entire system to have a pilot to test the approach, to be sure that the approach, both in terms of its metrics and its structure and its model, is one that's having the desired effect. And we do think that 200% of tuition is a starting place. We would like to assess that over time, and perhaps over the next 2 years, if necessary, come back to you with some adjustments for that if necessary. So it's a pilot that we propose, and we're very, very bullish on it. Timing, by the way, is critical. It's important to have this discussed today and hopefully approved so that we begin the promotion of this approach as we begin the fall 2027 cycle of applications. So with that, I'll stop, take any questions. Thank you for your consideration. We appreciate the Finance Committee's review of this a few weeks ago.
Regent Hassan?
Yeah, President Gibson, my question is, there's no legal implication as some of folks will get in-state tuition, some states, and some will get out-of-state.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Legal implications.
Any legal implications?
The GC's reviewed it, our GC's reviewed it, it's been discussed with the state general counsel, Office of Attorney General, and it appears to be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Andy?
I want to make sure I understand the difference between the Frostburg approach and this one. So the Frostburg one is in-state for a regional group, so a much more significant decrease. And as far as I can tell, that is in perpetuity. There's not a time limit to that, whereas this is a pilot program, and it's not in-state, it's 200% of in-state. Is that right?
That's true. It's a pilot for 4 years is what we're projecting, so we can test it over time. And it's 200% of our in-state tuition for those 7 jurisdictions, and that the RAC, if you will, in-state rate would apply to other jurisdictions around the country.
And Regents Merrick, your understanding is correct on the Frostburg request.
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to support both of these, but if I meet someone on the street and they heard about this and they said, Andy, every time you give out-of-state students a decreased rate, isn't that tantamount to state taxpayers subsidizing out-of-state people for the cost of our education? How would I respond to that?
Here, if I were asked that question, which I am, here's what I would say. In both the cases that you're being asked to consider, we are under capacity. So this is not turning away any in-state student that would otherwise attend. And frankly, out-of-state students help us financially ensure that the university is vibrant for all students, both in-state and out-of-state. So by attracting more students from out-of-state when we have capacity to fill, we're actually, the out-of-state students are essentially helping all students have a more vibrant experience.
If I may, I would just add to that and maybe be a little more plain. I think it's a pilot, and we'll see what it does. I encouraged Mark to pursue this as a pilot. But I would say to those who may ask that question, and I'm sure they would, that this is a very clever way of getting money from other places to allow us to expand what we're doing and maybe keep the price down for everybody.
These are students presumably who would not have come to our state otherwise.
Correct.
That's the presumption.
In both cases, these are competitive pricing moves.
Great, thank you.
I will move it. Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We're deeply appreciative.
And thank you, Ellen Herbst, for stepping in. Our next is a review of the USM Board of Regents Policy Work Group Phase 1 progress. The group was introduced at the December board meeting and formally charged in January. The work group's deliverable for Phase 1 are in your materials. The work group is chaired by Regent Dana Stebbins and falls under the purview of the Committee on Governance and Compensation. Regent Leggett, is there anything you'd like to add before Regent Stebbins begins her report?
Yes. This is simply informational, but it's, we've taken it off of the consent agenda so that people will be aware of it, because I've heard a few questions about what this group is doing, timeframes, and how they can participate in some fashion. So this is an opportunity to outline that for you. So Regent Stebbins will carry us through the process so far.
Regent Stebbins, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm pleased to share an update on the work of the Policy Work Group and how this effort positions the board as our work continues. I'll walk you through what the group has completed in Phase 1 and then briefly preview what Phase 2 will look like for both the work group and staff. First, though, I want to reflect briefly on our charge. Chair Gooden, when you charged this work group in January, you reminded us that the system has changed enormously since 1989. The risk environment, the regulatory landscape, and the expectations placed on governing boards. That set a clear expectation for us that our policies must evolve and keep pace with the system we are governing. In a short period of time, we moved from a broad charge to a clear, actionable framework, positioning us to do the core governance work ahead. At its core, this group and its work is about ensuring our policies are clear, current, and aligned with the board's responsibilities, directly tied to how we govern effectively on behalf of the system. From the outset, Phase 1 had a specific purpose: to develop a work plan to guide the deeper review work which comes in Phase 2. That is exactly what we set out to do, and I'm pleased to report we accomplished it in 5 focused meetings over about a month and a half. Today marks the transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2, which is expected to conclude in November. Included in your materials is a summary of the 10 sections of board policies with the links to the individual policies in each section. Note, we currently have 238 active board policies. As a reminder, the work group includes myself as chair, Regents Blunt, Ganella, Marani, and Smarrick. We are staffed by Denise Wilkerson, Chief of Staff, Allie Boyle, Assistant Attorney General, Andy Clark, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Legislative Affairs, and Kathleen Perry, Deputy Chief of Staff. From the outset, this has been a highly collaborative effort, bringing together regents, staff, legal, legislative, and operational perspective, which has strengthened both the process and the products. Phase 1. We convened for the first time on February 25th. That meeting was foundational. We reviewed a detailed draft work plan and began addressing a key conceptual question, which is, what makes a policy high priority for the board? Early alignment on that question was essential as it shapes everything that follows. We also began discussing requirements for policy management software and the scope of work for our consultant who will support the group throughout this process. We met again on March 6th. With that groundwork in place, we finalized the work plan and the consultant's scope of work. Much of that meeting focused on developing a standard policy review template, which is a cover sheet that staff will complete when recommending policies for workgroup consideration. This tool is designed to bring consistency and rigor to how policies are identified and evaluated. As Chair Gooden emphasized in our charge, this work should be methodical rather than ad hoc, and this cover sheet is intended to ensure that approach. Our third meeting was on March 25th. We finalized the review template and turned our attention to phase 2, specifically how to organize and carry out the substantive review work. Our fourth and fifth meetings were with Chair Gooden and our advisors, Regents Leggett and Wood, as well as the Committee on Government and Compensation. Our advisors are in place to provide early, objective feedback on our processes and deliverables. Their input has been invaluable in sharpening the materials you see before you today. We are now entering the final stage of phase 1 and are seeking input from the board. Your perspective is essential in helping us pressure test the framework before we move into the substantive work ahead. In parallel, the USM Information Technology team has been developing tools to capture, track, and share information throughout this effort and has made meaningful progress with more to come. This cross-functional partnership will continue to be important in phase 2. Additionally, we are in the process of finalizing an agreement with AGB to bring on a consultant that will serve in an advisory capacity, providing an independent expert and industry perspective. Taken together, phase 1 has reduced a work plan, a consultant engagement, a review framework, and a clear division of labor. Just as importantly, it has built momentum and a shared understanding of how we will approach this work, positioning us well for phase 2. Before I move on to a preview of phase 2, I want to pause and turn your attention to this item that's in your materials. This is the cover sheet that I mentioned, a tool designed by the work group to surface high priority policies and give Regents an overview of what is working and what is not. Staff will complete this cover sheet when recommending policies for work group review. This tool is intended to do more than organize information. It is designed to strengthen decision-making by ensuring each recommendation is grounded in a clear, consistent set of considerations. It captures why a policy is being recommended for review, along with its scope, clarity, legal compliance, risk level, strategic alignment, relationship to governance, and reporting requirements. It will also include subject matter experts, exemplars, and other contextual materials. Let me pause here for any questions or comments on phase 1 before I move on to review phase 2.
Regent McMillan.
Thank you very much, Dana, for your report. I was just curious, when we look at the scope of this project and the fact that higher ed has changed so much, look at hospitals, for example, that were part of the university system, and now they're spun off. And that's not so applicable to us, but in so many other areas, intercollegiate athletics conferences have become so dominant, signing multi-billion-dollar contracts, corporate investments, all sorts of relationships with the university that were not the case maybe 30, 20 years ago. So I was just wondering, how does this, I haven't had a chance to review everything, just tell me in the big picture how you kind of deal with how the world of higher ed has changed in terms of some of these areas that I mentioned.
That's a question I think you should raise at the point, I will explain, a point at which we will need input from the regents at large who go beyond the work group. And that's your opportunity to raise those kind of questions. Sure. Any other questions?
Seeing none, please continue.
Okay. Now I'd like to walk you through our work plan and provide a preview of Phase 2. For staff, the first step is to recommend which policies should rise to the level of work group review. I told you there are over 200, and certainly we cannot be expected to go through 200 policies. So we must have a way of identifying those that have a priority. These recommendations will be guided by the priority considerations found on the work plan and cover sheet. Staff judgment is central to determining what should be reviewed and why. We estimate roughly 10%, or about 20 to 30, may be elevated to high-level review, but that could be higher or lower. The focus is not volume, but identifying where the board engagement will have the greatest impact. For the regents, the work group will conduct focused reviews of the selected policies, working with staff, the consultant, and other resources to benchmark and develop recommendations. Importantly, regents will not draft or rewrite policy language. The outcome will be written recommendations on potential changes, not formal red lines. This keeps the board in its governance role, seeking direction while staff handles technical development and implementation. Just a moment to make this more concrete. Imagine a committee with 20 policies. Committee staff will determine that 2 policies rise to the level of work group review. That determination would be based on a combination of the considerations on the work plan and the judgment of staff in their respective areas of expertise. For each policy, staff would complete a separate cover sheet, attach relevant materials and contacts, and identify a staff partner. A regent would then be assigned to each policy, and the review would begin. That review may look different depending on the policy and the issue. Now, before I finish my update, I want to address a few practical considerations. First, while staff will primarily recommend policies for work group review, any regent may also make recommendations within this process. Ultimately, the work group will decide what it takes on. This ensures both board input and a coordinated selection process. Second, we recognize workload is a real consideration for both regents and staff. Once submitted, policies will be assigned and reviewed in a coordinated way to balance effort. Policies are not evenly distributed across committees, and timelines will reflect that. We also expect this to be an iterative process with opportunities for clarification and follow-up as reviews proceed. Third, the cover sheet asks staff to identify a staff partner for each policy. This does not need to be the senior lead. It can be any team member best positioned to work with the assigned regent. This flexibility reflects the broader approach we've taken, bringing together the right people across roles and functions to move the work forward effectively. It also sets the tone for Phase 2, where continued collaboration between regents, staff, and subject matter experts will be central to producing thoughtful, well-informed recommendations. Finally, Phase 2 will focus on reviewing existing policies, while Phase 3 is set aside to address gaps in policies. With that, I welcome your feedback and guidance before we move forward into Phase 2. This is, for us, a meaningful opportunity for the board to shape how we govern going forward. We're encouraged by the progress so far, and this is an important inflection point where your insights are valuable. Are there comments or questions?
All right, let's start with Regent Clark. Lewis, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say that this is a Herculean undertaking. But the roadmap that you put together, I really think is outstanding. And I think it is something that we can all be a part of and work on together. And I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, when we first talked about this, it just seemed overwhelming, but you've made it so that it's digestible. And it was very easy to follow, you know, what your plan is and how you intend to execute, and you know, what the outcomes would look like. So I just wanted to congratulate you on this part of it so far, because I think it's really very well done.
Thank you,
Regent
Regent
Ganella.
Lewis.
I could just say ditto, but as a member of the work group, I hope that all of my fellow regents will take one thing away from this, and that is exactly that. This is a major undertaking. For it to be done correctly, it can't be done overnight. For it to be done correctly, it's going to need the involvement and engagement of all the regents, not just those that are on the work group. And for it to be done correctly, it requires significant leadership. And we are very lucky to have Regent Stebbins in that position. I just wanted, as a member of the work group, to say thank you for the leadership you've shown, the process that you have helped to create, and the vision that you have articulated that has led us to this point. I was very concerned about what this was going to take, and you have led us to a point where I think it is manageable and I think we can succeed. And I'd also like to thank the staff that's involved in helping us through this, because without them, I don't know that we'd be here. So thank you both for what you've done to this point.
I appreciate that.
Regent Hassan.
Yeah, I certainly echo what Regent Lewis and Ganella said. It's really a huge task. My question is, how much of AI you're using? Because to me, for this type of work, AI will really help you tremendously in reducing the level of effort that is required in this process.
Now, this is where the staff comes in. We have an excellent staff supporting this work group. And questions like that rise all the time. And I wait for guidance from them before I respond. So I'm not going to jump out there and tell you where we're going, but I am certain that they've anticipated that question, and at our next meeting, we will probably discuss that.
Any other questions for Regent Stebbins? Regent Stebbins, thank you. Thank you for taking this on. It is a Herculean effort. And thank you for successfully explaining in English what we're doing, and so that all of the regions understand it. You know, we had an opportunity, Jeff and I, to brief the accreditation group Tuesday, and for College Park. And when we told them we were taking this on, even they looked like, whoa, this is big. And so this is, you're doing just an amazing job here, so thank you.
Thank you. Can I just take one more moment to thank the staff?
Yes.
Because they have been instrumental in helping us to get our arms around this massive task and provide us with the expert guidance that we need to keep going. So without them, I probably wouldn't be standing here giving you this complete report. So thank you very much.
Our next item is a report from the Committee on Research and Economic Development. Last month, the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research and Economic Development convened a symposium on the topic of trust in science called Science at the Crossroads. Regent Wood will introduce the report to the symposium, on the symposium.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just a quick personal comment. This is a very special day for me. As I stand here right now, I'm 4 blocks from the dorm that I was in as a freshman, 4 blocks from the house that I lived in for a total of 4 years as an undergraduate, going back to 1963. So President Pines, it's an honor to be back. Science at the Crossroads was a day-long symposium held on Friday, March 27th in the 4 MLK building at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. The event had nearly 100 in-person and virtual attendees. It examined how to build and maintain public trust in research. It was co-hosted by the University System of Maryland and the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and was organized by the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research and Economic Development. The program combined a data-driven keynote with 3 panel conversations and institutional tours to connect researchers, administrators, communications, and the public. The symposium supported the system's commitment to ensuring public trust in the research that we conduct, which is the cornerstone of research legitimacy, funding, and societal impact, defining accountability and public engagement, critical steps to ensure research serves the public good in an era of rapid technological change. The event opened with institutional remarks from Chancellor Perman and myself, and a keynote presentation by Brian Kennedy, a senior researcher at the Pew Research Center. He shared the latest from Pew's Trust in Science Research series. That evidence was followed by 3 thematic panels, including communication science and technology to diverse audiences, a discussion of how media and applied science communication could reach different types of audiences with compelling stories about science, technology, innovation, and policy that shapes the research landscape. The second was responsible authorship in the era of AI. And we've had discussions about the need for thinking in terms of using AI today. This focused on authorship, norms, attribution, and ethical use of generative AI in scholarship. And finally, research ethics of emerging technologies, in which disciplinary and institutional perspectives were brought to bear on important questions of research ethics in different disciplines and areas of study. Between panel attendees participating in a peer-moderated lunch table discussions, which was led by Bill Dennison, the provost at CES, and concluded with remarks from Michelle Masucci, Vice Chancellor for Research and Economic Development, and a tour of the 4 MLAK facilities provided by Senior Vice President Jim Hughes. Attendees joined from across the country, virtually and in person, from the system and regional academic and health care institutions, the National Academies, the Science Center of Philadelphia, and the Pew Research Center. Madam Chair, that's my report.
Thanks, Bill. Are there any questions or comments for Bill on this matter? All right, seeing none, thanks, Bill, for the informational report. The first item for the Committee of the Whole is a board resolution to support funding for UMES's radio station from the Public Media Bridge Fund. Ms. Wilkerson will present the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is coming to you from UMES, and UMES received the request after our cycle of committee meetings, and so that's why it's coming to the Committee of the Whole and at this time. UMES has a radio station, WESM, which has served the Eastern Shore Public Radio Station arena since 1987. It reaches audiences across the Midshore and the lower Delmarva Peninsula. For decades, the station relied primarily on university support and federal funding. The federal portion of its funding was rescinded last year. So in response, a public media bridge fund was established last fall to support the affected radio stations. WESM was awarded $199,685 in a grant through that fund. 60% of the grant was distributed immediately to provide near-term stability. The remaining funds require submission of a report and a board resolution. Reporting guidance was provided in early April, so hence the timeline. Judy Diaz is the general manager. She has provided supporting documentation to show that the grant is in good standing, and also an interim report on the radio station and its use of the funds. So you have in front of you a resolution for your consideration, and that's all I have.
Okay. Any questions?
Briefly,
Yes.
Just to be clear about this, since it didn't go through the committee process, as I understand this, this is just the administrative process that we need to go through to approve a grant that has already been applied for, has already been accepted. The school has already gotten the first tranche of
Yes.
money. So all of those things that may have really required more committee attention, that is in the rearview mirror. All we're doing right here is just giving approval for this which is the ultimate, like the last tranche of money for this grant that's
So
already operational.
the remaining $79,000, yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
May I add something?
Yes.
Madam Chair, may I add something?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to make sure everyone is clear about it as well, this radio station, WESM, it is a collaboration between our university and Salisbury University. And as Denise pointed out, we have been ongoing in this particular partnership since 1987. It also is one that allows us to have hands-on training for this next generation of journalists and our producers. It also gives us UMES and Salisbury student internships. And the last thing that I will say is I have strong confidence in the current station's leadership and their oversight. What Ms. Judy Diaz did was made sure that she took a look at the loss of federal funding. She anticipated that, and then she went about trying to make sure we replaced it with other revenue streams. So she has done a wonderful job finding this bridge funding and completing that particular revenue stream transition. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Again, it was coming to you at the last minute because it came to us from the federal government at the last minute. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkerson. Last but certainly not least, I would like to introduce a resolution of appreciation for Vice Chancellor for Accountability, Dave Mosca. Vice Chancellor Mosca has led the USM Office of Internal Audit since 2005 and is retiring next month. Throughout his long and distinguished tenure, Dave has overseen more than 1,500 audits and investigations, leading internal audit as it worked to ensure that the system and the Board of Regents are accountable to the USM students and employees, state leaders, and the people of Maryland. Dave's innovative vision and steadfast commitment to the principles of accountability, transparency, and integrity have strengthened USM's operations and governance, leading to a greater understanding of risk assessment, safeguarding public trust, and ensuring responsible stewardship of Maryland's resources. I move that the Board of Regents, upon the occasion of his forthcoming retirement, gratefully acknowledge and commends Dave Mosca for his exemplary service to the USM and to the entire state of Maryland. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. This brings us to the close of today's meeting. The Open Meetings Act permits public bodies to close their meetings to the public in circumstances outlined in 3-305 of the Act and to carry out administrative functions exempted by 3-103 of the Act. The Board of Regents will now vote to reconvene in closed session. The agenda for the public meeting today includes a written statement with a citation of the legal authority and reason for closing the meeting, and a listing of the topics to be discussed. The statement has been provided to the Regents and is posted on the USM's website. Do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the meeting is closed.
Thank you.